Hello everyone, my name is Richard Lloyd and this is the Richard Lloyd YouTube channel. Today I'm going to do a follow-up video on a recent video I posted about D-Link router. This is the 868L, DIR-868L, and I posted how to recover it from a bad flash. Today, and in that video actually I said, hey, I'm going to show you how to update the firmware to the latest, what they call hot fix for it. And I said it's a little tricky and there's really no instructions on the website on how to do it, but I know how to do it. I figured it out. So I'll show you how to do it on your router. This video will also apply to any D-Link router with the similar hot fix, and I'll show you what I mean. And you should check your router no matter what the manufacturer is once in a while to see if there's a newer piece of firmware for it, because those hot fixes fix what they call vulnerabilities. In other words, without those hot fixes, your router and your network and your computers are actually vulnerable to exploits from the internet. So you want to patch them up and keep them running with the highest level of firmware you can get, just so that you stay safe. So anyways, I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to need a patch cable to connect your computer. This is a Ethernet patch cable. You're going to need one of these. Usually you get one with a router in the box, so you're going to need one of these to physically hardwire to the back of the router, and we're going to hook up here to any of the LAN ports, but not the yellow or WAN internet port. We don't hook up there. That's for the internet only. So any of the LAN ports, plug it in, and plug the other side into your computer, PC, or your laptop if you have an Ethernet jack in it. And the port should look like that. And if your laptop or PC does not have an Ethernet port but has a USB port, you can get a USB to Ethernet adapter pretty cheaply now, around $15 on Amazon. That's where I got mine. And I'll put links for this stuff in the video description below. They're all affiliate links. They're paid links. So when you buy through those links, I get a little piece of the sale, and that helps me here on YouTube. And bonus for you, it doesn't cost you any extra than just going directly to Amazon or eBay and finding it yourself. So you don't have to find it. You'll know you'll get the same thing that I'm using, and you'll help out my channel. Everybody wins. Thank you for helping me with that. So once we're connected to the laptop with the Ethernet port, very simple, just plug it in and it clicks in and locks. Then what we're going to do is, with the router on, and you don't have to do the reset that I'm going to do. I'm going to do a factory reset on the router just to start off fresh. But if you do that, you'll lose all your settings. So you don't really need to do it. I'm just doing it because basically I'm starting it at square one. If you know how to get to your router and how to actually log in with the password, you're fine. But if you've lost the password, well, this procedure will show you how to reset your router and get back to a default state. So on the bottom of the router, as I showed on my last video, there is a reset hole, really, and a reset button underneath that hole. And what you're going to do with the green light on and the power on is to insert, what I'm using is a toothpick, and I recommend using that because it's wood and can't hurt it. So I'm going to, while it's on, I'm going to press it in, and you'll see here in a second that it will turn amber. There we go. And once that's done, you're done resetting the router. Now it's going to reboot, come back up, and be in a default state at the default IP address that it would be when you took it out of the box. So in other words, I just turned it back into what it was, or how it was set from the factory. So next, we're going to we're going to go into the computer and set up the parameters required, the networking parameters required to get into this thing. And once we do that, we will get the firmware, the latest firmware, and the hot fixes, and I'll show you how to connect all that up, or how to install all that. So here we are on the desktop. First thing we need to do, obviously, is to go get the firmware, the latest firmware for your router, in this case the DIR-868L. So let's go to D-Link. I'm assuming that you have access. Here we are on my desktop, and basically I'm just going to do a Google search for D-Link firmware download, as you can see there. And we're going to click on support, technical support here, and we get to the support site. But we, unfortunately, the 868 that I'm using is a legacy device. So if you have an older device and you can't find it by looking in this main page here, then go to the legacy site and get your correct firmware for your older legacy router. So this is an 868. So I'm here, I'm going to hit control or hold down the control key and the F key to find. And here we're going to type in 868 and it'll search the page and find it for me. So there is the DIR-868L. Click on that. Here we are at the main page for it, legacy products. And we want to go to download, which is right here. Okay. Mine is a revision A. If you look at the bottom sticker on your router, it'll tell you whether it's an A1 or A2 or B, whatever it is. So the revision will be on the bottom. Mine's a Rev A, so I'm going to choose that. Bunch of stuff here, but all we're really interested here is firmware, and a bunch of firmware here too. Now, regardless of which firmware you have, this procedure will work, but I would strongly suggest to you that you download them all. They're free. Download them, put them in a directory, save them for later. You can play with them if you wish, but you always have a backup anyway. And certainly for sure, get the 1.00. That's the original firmware, and that is the most likely one to work for you, as it was, probably the most heavily tested before the router was released. So let's go get what we need, and in this case, I need the as you can see down here. Well, let me look at the progression. You can see how the numbers get bigger and bigger. But you see here where it goes from 1.12 to 1.20, the hot fixes. So that's what we're going for. Now, I'm going to do a regular upgrade of the firmware so you can see how that works. And I'm going to, from there on, go to the hot fix. But you can do it from any one of these versions, the hot fixes. So I'm just choosing the latest one for fun. Actually, maybe I'll do that on a separate video and just do the hot fix for now. So currently on my router, it's I have the version 1.0 zip file in there, which is the oldest one. But it does, like I said, it doesn't matter. You can use any one of them. So let's go get the hot fixes that we need. And just so you know, and I'll save it as here and put it in my D-Link. There we go. There's my original firmware that I put in there with the brick router repair. So that's one, but there's two, and I recommend doing both of them because they're the latest fixes, right? And save it as, put it in a folder where you'll know where it is, just like me. There we go. Now these are zip files, so the router won't see them as being real files, and well, files that it can use anyway. So they're compressed files that got to be uncompressed for the router to use them. So that's all we need from the internet. And one of the cautions that I have for you, very, very strong caution, is never, ever, ever flash a router or upgrade the firmware on a router using Wi-Fi. I know it's tempting because it's easy, but the chances of failure are too high, and then you're in a whole world of hurt, right? Then you'll be watching my other video on how to rescue your router, and hopefully it'll work for you. And I'll put a card up for that video up here. All right, so what we're going to do here is turn off the internet, turn off my Wi-Fi. So click on the Wi-Fi icon at the bottom, and there we go. Just turn it off. That's it. And again, I've got the router physically connected to my PC that I'm using right now, that I'm on the desktop right now, and it's connected with an Ethernet cable to one of the LAN ports, not the WAN or internet port, and to a network card on the back. Again, if you don't have one of those, look at the video description. I'll put a link to this little device, this USB device, which has been very handy for me, and it probably will be for you too. So now we're off Wi-Fi, but we are connected to the router through Ethernet, and I'll show you how to check that. So right click your network icon down here, choose open network and internet settings. There you go. And then we're going to go Ethernet because that's how we're connected. And for some reason it's saying I'm not connected, and no idea why. Let's see if we got bad connectivity here. There we go. It liked it that time. I'll choose a different port. Maybe I'm having a hard time with that port. There we go. So Once it says no internet and not connected, you know which one we're connected to. We're connected to Ethernet, no internet. But where we're going to go here is to change adapter options. And yeah, you can have technical difficulties like that too. But easy to fix, just wasn't connected right. And you can see that I got 4 different choices on networks, but I'm only really connected to one. There's red X's on the rest, so it's pretty obvious. So right click that and then choose status. And under details, you will see your IP address. It's 192.168.0.100, which is great. But what you really need to know is your gateway address, because your gateway is your router. So, and your router is your gateway. 192.168.0.1 is where that router is, because that's our current gateway. So close this out. And just so you know, look at the properties here. If you want to see where the TCP/IP settings are, they're right here. Go to properties, go to this Internet Protocol version 4, double click it, and you can see that it says obtain IP address automatically and DNS server automatically, which is how it should be set. So close that out, and close that as well. And I'm just going to minimize this for now. So back to the browser. We're going to open up a new tab. In here, we're going to open up 192.168.0.1. And there it is. Now, because I reset the router, it's in a default setting. This is how it comes out of the box. So we're going to hit cancel. There we go. And once you hit cancel, you're at the main page. And where we want to go to is the tools, and then over here on the left menu, firmware. Okay, and it tells you which current firmware we have. It's 1.00, and the date is 2013, 2/07/2013. Pretty old. Even the time is on there, but regardless, here what we're going to do is just basically leave it on this page, go to our file browser, and what we're going to do is go look at the files we just downloaded, because they're zip files, so they're compressed. So we're going to go to downloads, D-Link, where I downloaded them, and you can see I have 2 hot fixes. So what I like to do, because it gets confusing with all this stuff in one directory, I just create a new directory, and we're just going to call it hot fixes. There we go. And I'm just going to move by dragging and dropping the zip files into the hotfix folder. There we go. Move to. There we go. And now all the zip files are in there. We're going to start with the first one here. And like I said, I checked on the net, and even on the download site, there's no instructions really on how to do this. So I had to figure it out, and it was a little confusing, but I did it, and I'm going to show you how to do it here. So this is a zip file. We got to unzip it. So double click it, and then click on this button up here that says extract all. And it's going to create a directory with all that stuff in it. So we're going to do that. Just go with the default and hit extract. There we go. And it pops up again. But if we go back to the original directory, oops, a little too far. Let's go to downloads, D-Link, hot fixes. You'll see that now I've got 2 directories with a zipper on them and one that's just a regular folder. So we're going to go to that, and there you have all the files you need to do the hotfix. And you can see there's 2 bin files, not one. So you have to do the first one first and the second one to get it to work right. So there's 2 steps to upgrading this firmware to 1.2 beta, as you can see here. And if you click on the, let's open it up in Edge, on the PDF, hit OK, you'll see what they say about this. And they say it's for A hardware, right? So AX meaning A1 or A2 or whatever. And it says the patch requires 2 firmware updates. First upgrade with this, then upgrade with the second one, which is what we're going to do. And it says notes, right? And you can read the rest, but basically it says it's fixing a vulnerability, and you want to fix those, certainly do. So check your router if it's not this model, and a D-Link or even any other manufacturer, and see if there's a recent firmware update, and do it if it's available, because it always fixes something that is a vulnerability. So there's the firmware and what it says it does. But you can read that on your own time. At this point, we're ready to go back to our original tab, and we're on firmware, so we got to choose a file to do it. So choose file, and I'm going to go back to downloads and hot fixes, and then to my firmware directory, and then we're going to choose this this file here. See how it says middle and then it says bin? So middle is the first one you do, and you notice the firmware is 1.113, and then it goes to 1.20. So we're going to choose the 113, hit open. You can't do it any other way. You have to do it this way. I don't know why, but here I'm going to hit upload, and it's going to go through the process of uploading this and then rebooting as it is right now. And when it comes back up, I'll pick it up and we'll go from there. All right, it's rebooted. It's saying log in. So I'm just going to click on that because I don't have a password. It doesn't have a password by default. So definitely set the password on this thing. Don't leave that vulnerable that way. But you know, because I reset the router, it comes with no password. So I'm just going with that setting. We're going to go to tools again, firmware. We're back to it. And now you can see that even up here it says version 1.13, and again down here 1.13 2017, right? So next thing we're going to do is choose another file to do an upgrade with, which is the second one, and it goes directly to where it should. We did the middle one right here, so we're going to do the final one, which is the 1.20 bin, and here we're going to hit open, and then again go through this process again, hit the upload button. We're going to wait a few minutes as it does the update. You can see here 2 minutes, and I'll bring it back up then and do the final hot fix, which is more of a compatibility issue than a vulnerability, but I'll show you that next. It's rebooted back up, and you can see even on up here it says firmware version 1.20, and now it says hardware version A2, which is kind of weird because the sticker on the bottom says A1, but it's working, so you know, who cares? It's functional. So here we're going to go to login again. And now we can see that we're 11/27/2017, and the current version is 1.20, as we saw in the first screen and up on the corner here. So that's that problem fixed. So let's go back here to the second hot fix, which, what am I doing here? Hold on. My folders. The second hot fix is this one, the 1.20B07 hot fix. So we're going to extract that, same thing again, double click it, click extract all, go with the default so that it gets extracted in the same directory. Close this up. We're going to go back here to the hot fixes, and you can see now we have a second directory here that is the revision firmware 1.20B07. We're going to go into that folder. And again, now we have another PDF. We'll close this one off and back to this right here. And this one is a single bin file, so it's not a double thing, a double firmware update. So on here you can see that, you know, problem solved, unauthenticated RCE, whatever, LAN side up. So obviously a few more vulnerabilities. Remote command execution on the LAN side, again, more vulnerabilities fixed up. So we want these, right? I mean, seriously, you want your router as tight and secure as possible. So, and just to state, that's for this router and a few others that D-Link has, you know, this kind of vulnerability. But a lot of the routers that I saw on the list from D-Link have firmware and vulnerability updates. So even if you don't have this router, or you have a D-Link router that's a different one than this one, or a different manufacturer altogether, get the latest firmware, do the firmware update. You know, and if I don't have a video on it, ask me about it and maybe I can do it. But I need the hardware to do it. So in this case, I'm just doing it for D-Link, but procedure is very similar in most of them. So I'm going to close this off, and you can see, as I said before, there are problems being fixed with these firmware updates. So let's go here. There's the next firmware we're going to put in, and the last one. So, well, once again, we're going to choose file down here, go to the right directory, which is not that one. It's this one here, 120B07. and open that up, and then go with the bin file in that directory and hit open. Okay, and then we hit upload, and it goes through the exact same procedure again, 2.5 minutes or so, and it boots back up and tells you everything's cool, right? So I'll pick it up at that point, and at that point we should be done with all the vulnerabilities. I'll go through a few setup suggestions for you, and then we'll close it up. All right, we're back at the login page, and nothing changes really. You don't see any difference in the firmware version here or the hardware version. So here we're going to just click on login, and then we're going to go to tools over here. And number one thing you should do as soon as you get here is put your password in here for your authentication to get into this page so that you can't be hacked easily. Then we're going to go here to firmware, and in here you'll see now that we have a 11/21/2019 firmware file. So we've gone up another 2 years on the date, so you can see that it's now a 3-year-old, currently 3-year-old firmware, which is cool. I mean, you know, up to 3 years ago they kept updating the firmware, so I don't know if they're going to keep doing that or not, but you never know, so check once in a while. And you can also check automatically here, but that is not going to get you the hot fixes. The hot fixes will not install automatically. I think the furthest I could go with the automatic check now was 1.12, which is 1.12, which was a little far away from 1.20. So that's the firmware update hot fixes for this router. There are fixes like this for a lot of D-Link routers, and check by going into the pages I showed you, the legacy firmware site or the regular firmware site if you have a non-legacy product. And on top of that, make sure that you set the password again. Can't reiterate that enough. But outside of that, that's it. I'm finished. You know, set up the router the way you want with Wi-Fi and so on and so forth. There's nothing else to undo on the computer except maybe, you know, in my case, we'll turn the Wi-Fi back on. Basically at that point, everything's back to normal, and so is yours. Disconnect your router, connect it back to where it's supposed to go, and off you go, right? That's it for my video. If you like this video, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up at the bottom, and if you like my content, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified every time I put up a new video. That way you can watch it at your own leisure, but at least you know one came out. Also in the video description below, all the links and stuff for the things I use in this video and things I like to use are there. Nice thing about that is that they're affiliate links, and that means when you use those links to buy stuff at either eBay or Amazon, I make a little portion of the sale, and it doesn't cost you any extra. It's the same as going to Amazon and eBay and buying those things directly. So do me a favor, click through those to go to Amazon or eBay to buy those products and help me out. As again, it's a win-win. You help me, and it doesn't cost you any extra to do so. And the other benefit is that you're going to get the same stuff that I use in the video because I link to the same hardware that I use in the video. So when you click on it, you'll get exactly what I had, and you'll know it's going to work. And these things here, I bought one. I didn't think it would be all that useful. It's been very useful. I've actually used it on a Raspberry Pi. It works. I've used it on several laptops and even on my desktop because it's easier to plug in a Ethernet cable on the USB ports on the top of my PC than it is on the back. So here I'm just going to hit cancel. That's my other router trying to open up here. So yes, once again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing and commenting. Yes, comments in the video description below, suggestions, any questions, stuff like that, put in the video description below. I do read them and check them regularly, so I really appreciate that. And I have made several videos from suggestions made in the video comments. So please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment, and share if you can. Thanks again. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.